Hello and welcome to the first installment of the How To series presented by Freshservice, your guide to the best practices for ITSM and ITOM. I am Ram Sundar and I'm here to share with you how to manage your asset lifecycle from procurement to retail. In today's session, we will be talking about the general challenges faced by the procurement team and the benefits of managing the procurement process within a service desk tool. We also have a quick walkthrough on how to track and manage assets from procurement to retirement within a service desk tool. Let's get started.
Workplaces are changing faster than ever thanks to advances in technology and better software at work. But the life of a procurement manager hasn't changed much. Let's consider Bob. Bob is the procurement manager at Acme Inc. So he receives a request from the IT team to procure 50 new laptops for the new joinees joining the company. Bob quickly checks the inventory.xls spreadsheet that his company maintains to see the available stock for that particular asset. He also checks the vendor.xls file, another spreadsheet that the team maintains to collect quotations from the different vendors that Acme Inc. works with. Once he has the vendor quotations and the stock information, he raises a purchase order using the standard company template and sends it for approval within the stakeholders in the company. And then there is an endless wait for the approval email from the stakeholders. Finally, once the approval is received, he is good to email the purchase order to the vendor selected. The purchase order is now with the vendor, and vendor ships the requested items, and the shipment reaches the Acme Inc. company. Once the shipment arrives, Bob marks a spreadsheet for the list of items that are received and adds them to the company inventory that Acme Inc. is managing in a different tool. Once the items are added, Bob emails the invoice to his accounts payable team within the company so that this purchase order is part of their auditing. Once everything is done, Bob finally goes back to the original service request that initiated this purchase order and fulfills the service request in the service desk tool. It's indeed a long process, but surely things can be better than this, right? Absence of a procurement management solution can lead to process delays, can lead to confusion in auditing for the finance team, and even for the IT team, it can lead to underutilization of their own resources, not knowing whether they are low on stock or high on stock. They don't have any visibility into it. And it also affects the overall process itself, leading to inefficiency. It's not just the process, it also affects the people on both procurement as well as finance side. There is poor communication or transparency between, lack of transparency between these teams. It ultimately leads to lose control over spending, and the companies end up paying more for the assets that they need to purchase. The interesting thing is that Bob is definitely not alone in this. Respondents to a procurement process survey say that 60% of the respondents say that they either don't use any tool or they are dependent on a spreadsheet for tracking the purchase order requirements. So this clearly leads to process gaps, inefficiencies, and companies overspending on their IT budget. Okay. As a procurement manager, the biggest hurdle that one faces is while establishing a streamline purchasing process, it has to do with the use of multiple disparate tools that companies uses, which basically scatters information in multiple places within the company. There is no centralized source of information or single source of truth for anything related to purchase. It is scattered in emails, spreadsheets, and it's really difficult for a purchase or a procurement manager to practice purchases efficiently. So here is why we propose managing purchase orders in ITSM or service desk tool is a better approach. Having the purchase orders right within ITSM tool helps the IT agents to see the complete picture. So right from the beginning of the asset lifecycle, when the orders for these assets are placed, and right till when the assets goes to sunset, like either it goes to repair or like end of life, you have complete visibility over the asset right from the point it gets added to the inventory and right from the point it's like sunsetted away from the system. This is the advantage of having this asset, the purchase order management process within the ITSM flow, because this completes the complete asset life cycle right from procurement to the retirement part. And also having it within the services tool, it makes it like one tool list for the teams to work on, and they can simply toss away multiple spreadsheets and the email threads that they need to follow upon for approvals. And most importantly, your Freshservice inventory becomes a single source of truth for anything related to assets and purchases. This also helps IT teams to provide like complete visibility on like how much stock they need to purchase, what's their current stock status, are they low on stock, or like should they purchase more for the upcoming new hires. They can make these decisions easily since this have this information within the ITSM tool. And also they can track the existing licenses and warranties also when they come up for renewal easily with this information in the ITSM tool. Now let's get to the exciting part of how-to session. I'll show you how to manage your asset lifecycle from procurement to retirement within Freshservice. You can easily manage your purchase orders within service management tool. Yeah. Before I switch to the tool, I would like to give a quick intro about Freshservice. So Freshservice is Freshworks' intelligent right-size service management solution for modern enterprises. So Freshservice is intuitive, intelligent, and extensible solution that enables organizations to deliver exceptional employee and customer experience. Freshservice partners with companies in their digital transformation journey. Let's get to the how-to part. So this is a sample request that Bob receives every day. This is a request from the HR team requesting for 10 new Apple MacBooks for the developers joining the Acme org. This is something which was initiated using the service catalog form that Acme Inc. has in the service catalog, and the HR team has raised this request using the service item form. And the request is now rightly within the service request fulfillment team. Now it's with Bob to take action on this. So Bob now checks the incoming ticket and he sees that the request is for MacBook. In Freshservice, there is an option to fulfill service requests right from the tickets page. I mean, if there is an asset that is already in the inventory for a requested item, you can simply fulfill requests right from here. But in this case, Bob notices that there is no Apple MacBook Air for the requested item available here. So he has to raise a new purchase order to fulfill this request. So you need not switch to another tool, or you need not switch to multiple spreadsheets to initiate this process. Instead, you can do it directly right from the service request page that initiated this purchase order. He simply has to click on the associations tab. So associate options, like either the service request can be linked to a purchase order. I mean, if there is an existing purchase order for purchasing MacBook Air, that can be linked directly with this purchase order. Or if Bob would like to create a new purchase order for this particular request, he can do so by clicking on new purchase order. I'll give you the flow of how to create purchase orders right from scratch. So we'll go with the new purchase order option here. So this will take me to the purchase order creation screen. So this is the out-of-the-box purchase order form within Freshservice. So I'll give a order name for this request. So there is an order number fee. So this is something which varies from company to company, and everybody would like to have their own prefix, have their own terminology for the assets and purchase orders. So this field is completely customizable. If I want to add a different prefix for this purchase order prefix, I can definitely do that with this field here. And this particular form here, the purchase order form, is completely customizable. So if I need any additional fields than that of the default ones that are shipped out of the box by Freshservice, I can add them using the drag and drop form customizer in the admin section here. So this is something you can access from admin panel and purchase order fields. So this is a simple drag and drop form customizer. So if I need any additional custom fields, text fields, paragraphs, checkboxes, drop downs, number fields, dates, or if you want to add a URL number type field, I can just simply drag and drop to this form. GL code is one such field, the custom field that I have added to this form. So I can give it the title of the field. And here is something that you should make note of. So you have options to control whether this field is needed only for PO creation, or if this information should be shared with the vendors as well. I mean, with whom the PO is ultimately being shared. So if this information needs to be captured as part of the final PDF that is going to be shared, PO PDF that is going to be shared with the vendor, this option needs to be selected here. So this is one small example for the custom field. So you can add any number of custom fields for your organization purchase order requirements. If there is a specific field of drop down need, or like a date field, or like a text field, you can add them here. So coming back to the purchase order form, I'll just give a sample entry for the GL code. Okay. The next field is the vendor section. So having the purchase order flow within Freshservice or like an ITSM tool, another advantage is you can leverage the inbuilt capabilities. I mean, like the vendor catalog or the product catalog or the location, everything is already part of your ITSM system because you're already tracking it for your assets. So you can simply reuse that for your purchase order needs as well. So this actually fetches information from the vendor catalog of Acme Inc. So this is something you can refer from here as well. This is also another option in the admin panel, vendors. So if you would like to add any additional vendors or like populate any granular information about a vendor, you can do it here. So I'm just going to choose Apple, and this is going to fetch information from the vendor catalog and populate it here. And I'm going to choose HR as the department, as the request is for HR. And this currency field, like you can choose your currency of choice based on the vendor that you're engaging with. So if you're going to choose a different currency from your helpdesk currency, the system automatically converts it to the right value based on the conversion rate for that particular day. So you can choose like currency for based on the different vendors that you work with. If you're a global company working with vendors from different geos, you can leverage this functionality. Okay. And the next field is the expected delivery date. So this sets the expectation for the vendors, like when exactly the shipment has to be delivered for Acme Inc. I'm just going to choose a date from the date picker. So this is the shipping address where exactly Acme Inc. wants the items to be delivered. So this is also something that I can reuse the location information that I have within the Freshservice system. I'm just going to choose shipping address here, choose US, and I'm also going to choose the same address for shipping as well as billing here. And if there are any terms and conditions involved, I can populate it here so that it is captured as part of the PDF, PO PDF that is shared with the vendor here. So this is the basic set of fields. And now comes the item details part. So here is where I have to specify what exactly are the assets that I need to, that I need from the particular vendor. So this also leverages Freshservice product catalog and the software catalog that is already part of the system. So here I am going to raise requests for Apple MacBook Air, and I would need 10 quantities, and I can also show the tax rate. I'll also add charges for installation. Yeah. So I have filled out the product details, and I also filled out the installation charges here. Now I have the fields filled out as part of the purchase order form. I can just go ahead and submit this purchase order here. So once I click associate, it's not just going to create the purchase order within the system. It also creates the association between the original service request and the purchase order that we created. So I can see this purchase order right from here. And it also tells me the status. So as an agent working on this request, I can keep a tab on this purchase order right from here. So if the items are received, I can go ahead and fulfill this request. But there are like few steps involved. The vendor has to ship those items. And if the purchase order itself involves any level of approvals before sharing with the vendor, the agent has to wait for the PO to be completed. Okay. Now we will see how the purchase order actually looks like, the one that we just created. So all the list of purchase orders can be accessed from this left nav as well. So there is a separate section for purchase orders within assets. So inventory is where you have all the assets listed, and software captures all the software information of the assets that you're tracking. Freshservice also has a contract management module, and purchase order is where you track the purchase requests that you have with your vendors here. So this will show you all the list of purchase orders that are in play and their status, and the team that is working on it can see everything in this list view page here, and the delivery date involved. So one such purchase order is the one that we just created. So in the overview section captures everything that we filled out as part of the form, the item details and the basics of the purchase order. Now, like I said, most of the purchase orders, if it crosses a particular like a cost threshold, it has to be sent for approval. So the Freshservice purchase order management module has its inbuilt approval. So you don't need to do this outside of the system and emails. You can just go for the approval tab. So you can basically send the approval email to anybody in Freshservice system. So there is no requirement that the approver has to be an IT services agent or like an agent in Freshservice system. As long as the person is listed as an end user in Freshservice system, then approval email can be sent for purchase orders right from here. So for demo purpose, I'm just going to choose my colleague Andrea's name, and I will also choose my profile so that I can quickly approve this request here. So here is another option to make note of. So this gives you control over whether you have to wait for approval from all the stakeholders listed here, or if you have approval from one person in this group, if you can go ahead and make a purchase. And likewise, you can leave it to voting as well. Like if majority approves it, if the request can be considered as approved. I'm just going to choose at least one for the demo purposes. So once I choose the request for approval, so approval has been sent to Andrea and also sent to my test profile here. As I'm logged in as John, I can quickly approve this request. Whereas if I need to get approval from all stakeholders involved, I can remind Andrea about this approval initiated by choosing the send reminder option. At this moment, I'll also quickly show the list of email notifications that come as part of the purchase order. So we have a separate notification scheme for anything related to purchase orders. So you can, so whenever a new item is ordered or like an item is received or any change of state in terms of purchase order being canceled or like approval, approved or rejected. So there are like individual email notification templates, and the teams can completely customize it based on their organization needs. But the point to note is the stakeholders are always notified about any change of status in terms of purchase order, and they're always up to date on what is happening with their purchase order here. So coming back to the purchase order approval, I'll just go ahead and approve this. So this purchase order is now ready to be sent to the vendor involved. So I'll quickly mark this as ordered. So once this item is marked as ordered, I have the option to download this purchase order as a PDF. So the PDF is downloaded. I'll quickly open this. So like I said, I can control what options I would like to see in this PDF that needs to be shared with the vendor. So if I don't want a particular field to be displayed in the PDF, I can completely control it by unselecting the option, don't show it in the, show it in the PDF. Okay. So this is something that can be shared with the vendor. So this will act as the proof for the request made. So the vendor will take time and make the, send out the shipment to the company. So once the shipment starts arriving, I can track the purchase flow also within this section here. Oh, by the way, you can also add images to, files to purchase orders. So let's say if I want to add a code file to this particular purchase order, I can link this as well. So once it is attached, the approvers also will get to see this attached file. So the approvers, it's not necessary that they have to log into this tool to see this. They will be receiving an email that is configured here, and the approval email can also have attachments as part of the email. They can review the purchase order, and then they can approve or reject based on the merit of the purchase order. Okay. So that is the attachment section. So coming back to the receive items flow, now the vendor has started shipping items to the company based on the requested PO. So I can start using the receive item. So it's not always that you will receive all items in one go. So if you'd like to just track assets that are received, you can do it by just specifying the quantity that you have received so far. So I have just selected 5 assets. So here you can see that the status automatically changes to partly received because there are still few items that are yet to be received. And also if I switch to assets received tab, it shows the name of the asset that has been raised here. Okay. So I'll go back and complete the asset received flow. I will complete the remaining 5 assets as well. I'll mark them as received. Now you will see that the status changes from partially received to fully received. Now I have all the items received, and it's left for me as an asset manager to add those assets to Freshservice inventory. So you have this information within purchase order as well as the asset created. So from an asset manager point of view, you can see the history on how this asset was originally created. From the purchase management, purchase order management point of view, you can see how these assets are moved to the inventory. What is the live asset in the system for this particular, particular purchase, right from this assets received section here. So now we have assets added to the inventory from the purchase order. Now the team is good enough to fulfill the request. So I'll just go ahead and fulfill this request that is originally received for this purchase. So now if I go to the requested item, and if I choose fulfill request, I see an asset that is recently received. I can choose this and I can select next, and I can assign it to the HR team who requested for it. And I'm just assigning one laptop, so I'll wait for the other shipment. So I'll just say partially fulfill and assign this asset here. So now this request is completed. So once I have all the items shipped, I can mark it as fully, fulfilled, and I can simply close the request here. So You also have the asset in the inventory now. So you can track the asset like when it is being used by the employee in the company. So you can see it life cycle. You have the creation part is captured as part of the purchase order. But if there is going to be a new service request for repair or any replacement or like any incident reported against this particular asset, it's going to be captured during the life cycle of the asset. So at any point of time, you can ascertain the health of the asset by going through its associations tab, like whether an asset needs to be repaired or replaced. You can update the properties and you can manage it right from here. And for the purchase order section, so you can, at any point of time, you can export all purchase orders. If you would like to do it need it for your auditing purpose, you can export them right from here. It will be sent via the email to the person who requested it. That almost completes the flow, the walkthrough. I'll give a quick recap on what we actually saw. So Freshservice purchase order management can be linked to the service request fulfillment section in Freshservice. So whenever there is a new service request for any asset, you can directly create a purchase order right from the service request, and you can create an association between purchase order and service request then and there. And the purchase order form in Freshservice is completely customizable. You can add custom fields based on your company's procurement needs. If you'd like to have a specific field listed, you can add those fields to the purchase order form there. And the purchase order also comes with the approvals. So if you'd like to send your purchase order for approval with different stakeholders within the company, you can leverage the approval tab within the purchase order. You have approval options on whether all stakeholders have to approve or like majority to approve, or if one person approves it, you're good to go. So you have options to control approvals. And you also have attachment section where you can add all related collateral codes related to the purchase order right here. And this acts like everything like a single source. You don't need to juggle between mailboxes and spreadsheets to look out for this information. Everything related to purchase order is captured here. And the purchase order section becomes your single source of truth. So for any purchase that your team is working with different vendors, you can see the status, the delivery date, the vendor that you're working with. You can see this right from here, and you can also export them. And each purchase order can also be downloaded as a PDF, which is something that you can share with the actual vendor and also with the company accounts payable team. Okay. It's not just the association with the service request. So once the assets are received from the vendor, you can add them to the inventory right from purchase order using this add to inventory option. So this creates an asset entry for these items received in the Freshservice inventory, which is something that you can use for associating with tickets, service requests, and it can also be linked with other Freshservice modules like problems, changes, releases, projects, and other modules in the system. We have come to the end of the session. We'll quickly go through questions. So if you would like to, before we get on to the questions, if you'd like to try Freshservice purchase order management, Freshservice comes with a 21-day free trial in the highest plan. You can sign up for your Freshservice trial right from here. You see the link in the video listing. You can get your Freshservice up and running in few minutes. You'll have all the features to test out. You can check the purchase order management flow that we just saw. You can configure it on your own. It won't take more than few minutes. So try Freshservice now and feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or need any help with the trial setup.